As lawmakers await word of a special session, talks of a bid for a pro sports team are heating up. Details on negotiations. Plus, Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach takes aim at a federal rule to close a gun show loophole. What to know about the legal battle and its impact. And a statewide data breach impacts 150,000 Kansans. The latest findings after a cyber attack crippled Kansas courts. We're taking a look inside Kansas politics. Welcome in. I'm Rebecca Chung. A lot to get to today, so we're going to be starting off with the latest on the push to get the Kansas City Chiefs or Royals across the state line. I have political analyst Bob Beatty in studio today. He's here to break everything down. All right, Bob, rumors still swirling about what exactly could be happening with the stadium plans to lure a pro sports team to Kansas. So the Chiefs or Royals could be eyeing the Kansas side of the state line, it looks like. It's also raising questions of whether creating a port authority could help with that. So we spoke with State Senator David Haley, a Democrat from Kansas City. He introduced a bill to recreate a port authority for KCK. And in fact, he says it's now tied to the Star Bonds bill lawmakers were eyeing toward the end of the session. That bill was created to set aside money to lure the Chiefs or Royals to the Kansas side of the state line with a new stadium. And we asked Haley if bringing back the Port Authority might get one of the teams to move.
I don't even know how it would, unless the teams are going to be brought within some proximity to the river. I don't know. You know, if that's the case, that very well could be the case.
Now, the Chiefs and Royals aren't commenting on Haley's remarks, and lawmakers are currently being polled on when they will be available to return to Topeka for a special session to figure out a tax reform package. And during a special session, other bill proposals can be discussed and voted on, so that includes maybe the Star Bonds bill. So, Bob, when it comes to using Star Bonds, though, to finance major projects, you know, there is some risk, right? A stadium could be a $2 to $3 billion project. So there's questions right now about whether there will be enough return on investment if something like this passes. So do you think that could be the case here as well?
Well, first let me say that this came out of nowhere a bit at the end of the Kansas legislative session, and because up in Missouri's side, they rejected a vote to increase their sales taxes in order to pay for a Kansas City Royals stadium and also refurbish, the Chiefs stadium. And people are a little bit surprised about that. And what happened was a former Kansas legislator and probably some others were not secretly but quietly talking to the Chiefs. At least that's the story. And they thought there may be some interest on the Chiefs side and maybe the Royals side of hopping over if there was some financial incentive. So boom, it quickly happened. I'll talk about some of the details, but I was driving to Kansas City right after this happened, the day after it was announced, and there's two big sports radio stations that come out of Kansas City. I had both of them on, and they were pretty panicked, A, but B, they had an expert on that right out said, I think that we're going to see the Chiefs go to Kansas, and I was shocked. So how could this possibly happen? Star bonds. So when you think about it, how do you build $1 billion stadium? You need $1 billion. Now the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, the owner, just said, I have $1 billion. I'm going to build it. That's not usually how it happens. Usually it's the owners of the team throwing in some money and then a county or a state throwing in some money as well. Here's what Kansas could do. They could issue bonds for $1 billion, man, and then how does they get paid back? And the stadium is built, and then they get paid back by the sales tax on the revenue that comes from the stadium and everything around the stadium. So literally, the stadium would be paid for example, by people drinking beer at the Chiefs game. Alcohol would be something that there would be a sales tax on. Now, if there's anybody watching this from Missouri, now's a good time to take a break. Okay, don't watch. Just go ahead and take a break. So literally you could have Missourians come over, watch their Chiefs, drink a beer, and they're helping to pay for the stadium that Kansas lured across the state line. It's still the Kansas City Chiefs, but it's a pretty brilliant scheme. Nothing illegal about it, so I shouldn't call it a scheme. Now, quickly, you said, is it risky? There's always a risk with these bonds because they're based on future revenue from the sales tax that comes. So if you have one of these bonds and you build something and it's kind of a disaster, nobody comes, nothing happens, who's left holding the bag? It's the state or the county. We've seen that before. On the other hand, do we think that would happen with building a Chiefs stadium? I don't know if that really would happen. I mean, we know how fervent the fans are and how much income is generated in revenue. So I think it'd probably be a fairly good bet.
All right. And then also, let's talk about what's inside that Star Bonds bill. You know, lawmakers were working on toward the end of session there. So it's a little different than what we've seen in the past with some of these proposals. And like you said, a lot more money.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, this particular bill is very specific. It's really meant to lure over the Royals and or the Chiefs or both. Wouldn't that be something, right? So literally the bill says that the project, you know, should be $1 billion or more, because that's about what, you know, the estimates are to build these new modern stadiums, and only 2. Now, it does mention an NHL or a basketball team. I guess they just threw that in there. So it's very specific. It also, again, talks about these sales taxes that could happen, and of course that's going to happen at stadiums. Alcohol is mentioned, taxing alcohol. Obviously, a lot of alcoholic beverages are consumed at sporting events, and so that could bring in a lot of money. The other aspect is that Port Authority. That could be if one of the teams, maybe the Royals especially, said, you know, we'd like to go to Kansas, but we don't want to go over by Legends. Maybe this spot near the river is a good spot for us, and a Port Authority would allow some further incentives. The only difference, Rebecca, is that if a Port Authority would have to be authorized in a vote. The Star Bonds do not have to be authorized with a vote.
All right, and then also, of course, whether lawmakers come back to the State House largely depends on what the governor does. So right now, the governor or Republicans are making a big push for her to sign off on that tax package they passed, but she's been pretty adamant she's going to call a special session and she's going to veto this bill. But also, this getting a lot of support in the House. So what could we see happen? We still have a few more days to kind of anticipate what she does.
Well, you know, if we didn't have this Chiefs and Royals deal going on, there might be a lot more grumbling, saying, "Oh, I can't believe the governor is going to call us back." But you know, there are now some people saying, you know, we wouldn't mind a special session to get this Chiefs and Royals legislation passed, because in a special session, you don't have to just do the tax plan. Other things can happen. The legislators are there. So it's an interesting little dynamic to this, but in terms of the special session, the governor's chief of staff has said she's going to veto it. She doesn't have to, but it looks like she might. If so, then she calls a special session. The big question is, when would it be? Some people thought, oh, it'll be next week. It's not going to be next week from the looks of it. Very well could be June. You know, in order for the governor and others to make their case. The governor, of course, is well known, and maybe this has contributed to some of her higher approval ratings for going out on tour. Rural Prosperity Tour, Medicaid Expansion Tour. So, you know, maybe she takes late May and early June and heads out around the state to push her proposals. That's very possible too.
All right, got to keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
Bob, thank you so much. Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach is pushing back on efforts to close a gun show loophole. Plus, names, addresses, and social security numbers all leaked after a statewide data breach. A look at the findings of the months-long investigation into Kansas court's cyber attack. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
It is extremely important to have carbon monoxide detectors in your home.
Now is the time to call DeBackers for a complete tune and clean of your furnace and proper placement of carbon monoxide detectors, keeping your family safe for over 60 years. DeBackers Heating and Cooling.
After a car accident, everyone in Topeka knows who to call and how.
Just ask around.
Devon James wins. 888-8888.
They do right by people, and they care about Kansas.
Devon James wins. 888-8888.
That's who I'd call.
Thank you, Topeka.
For making Devon James your choice of law firms.
Devon James wins. Call 888-8888. Everyone in Topeka knows Devon James wins.
It's Memorial Day madness at the Mattress Hub, and now's the time to save big.
All the best brands in sleep up to $1,000 off with hot buys from $299. Or instant savings with Tempur-Pedic or Purple mattress and no interest financing for up to 60 months. Only at the Mattress Hub.
Jayhawk Coins, Games, and More has a large selection of collectible toys, video games, comics, sports cards, and rare coins. Items cluttering your closet? Bring them in for cash or trade, or talk to us about consignment options. Jayhawk Coins, Games, and More, located in Fleming Place.
Next live, the one and only Jimmy Kimmel.
Kelly and Mark have 4 children, but they only use the 3 most attractive ones on Instagram.
Correct. Plus, Alfonso Rivero.
Monday at 11 on 27.
Start your Friday with a donut. Fox 43 AM Live and Circle Coffee Company are giving away donuts every week to a lucky business. We'll draw a winner on Wednesday and deliver the treats on Friday. Sign up your business today for a chance to win. Sponsored by Circle Coffee Company.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Rebecca Chung. Next, Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach sparking a fight over gun rights with the latest rule from the feds. Now, Bob, they're trying to close a gun show loophole, and that new law is set to take effect later this month. So first off, let's start by talking about what this law would do. We're talking about requiring background checks and licenses for gun dealers, right?
That is correct. And currently, gun dealers do have to undertake background checks on people who want to buy guns, and they have to have, of course, a license. So they're essentially regulated. The loophole is there's some caveats, or again, loopholes for people who say they're gun collectors, or they simply want to pass on or even maybe sell at cost a gun to a family member. So they're not dealers. The loophole there, though, is the wording. At least some people argue, the wording has allowed someone to say they're a collector, but they're essentially acting as a gun dealer. Especially online, people argue this is very difficult to regulate. They just say they're online buying and selling guns and saying I'm a collector, and they're using that loophole. So the ATF and the Biden administration want changed the language of regulation of guns and guns dealers. So the old language was, quote, the principal objective for the person buying or selling the guns is is the livelihood and profit, okay? Mm-hmm. That's being changed to predominantly earn a profit. So the idea is, hey, is the goal that you're a collector or you're doing this with your family, or you're really trying to earn a profit? So it's really a semantic change to say, based on, the government could say, based on what you're doing, it looks like you're doing this to earn a profit.
All right. Now, right now, Kobach pushing back on this, calling the new law unconstitutional. 26 Republican attorneys general also joining into this fight.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much, legal aspects to this, and there's 2 aspects. One is a number of people simply don't like the change. They don't like the word change. They think the use of the word change will allow the government to go after people that truly are collectors. That's their argument. The second is they say that the Biden administration and the ATF are bypassing Congress. They're arguing that if they're going to change the words here and change the meanings of the regulations, Congress needs to okay it. So those are the 2 sides of their arguments. And, obviously, as we've said in many other issues, for so many other issues, this probably will end up in the courts.
Well, now the question of whether this move from the administration is infringing on gun rights, what do you think about that argument? Is there enough their foundation to make that argument? Well,
I've laid out a lot of the arguments for those who aren't happy with this. They think that the government would go after people that are truly collectors. And the opposite is those who are saying that actually these regulations do carve out sections that say if you were legitimately a collector or you are passing it on to a family member, that's right there in the wording. However, the other side has said, well, there was a case where there was a raid on someone who truly was a collector. He had like 150 guns, but he still could be a collector. So that's why I really think this probably might end up in the courts because disentangling those 2 arguments you could see how both sides could make the argument, and it's a tough, very tough, difficult thing, because if there is a collector who has a lot of guns, and they're passing those guns on, whether it's to a family member or to fellow collectors, guns are being distributed, and those who really want guns off the streets, in many ways argue they don't care who has them.
Yeah. Okay, Bob. Well, next, let's talk about some big news coming from the months-long investigation into a cyber attack that crippled Kansas courts last year. So we're now learning that 150,000 Kansans were impacted, having their personal information leaked. So really, the question now is, what's next?
Well, this was very, very difficult, and it actually, I hate to say this, but because it's strange to say, but it could have been a lot worse. Many people in the Kansas judicial system went back to the old days and using paper, writing, getting notes and briefs and for cases on paper. Well, of course, it's all been digitized. The problem is there's everything sensitive information, but this is incredibly sensitive information when it involves cases involving criminal cases, hiding identities of maybe informants or witnesses or things of that nature. I think that this was very difficult for everybody involved. Now, you said what's next. What's next is the state and the judicial system has to invest in what's going to be, it's very expensive, something very expensive, which is stopping this from happening again, and that is very expensive. And Kansas went through the same thing with its unemployment benefits during COVID, in which hundreds of millions of dollars went away because of scammers. Right. And so being proactive is the best way, but it's also a very expensive way. And sometimes you don't know that you're vulnerable until you get hit.
All right, Bob, thank you so much. More laws are set to go into effect this year, and in Kansas, we're taking a look at those and their impact. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
If you're a potential student and you're thinking about where to go for college, and you're trying to decide, why would I go to Washburn? I can tell you, people are going to know you. You're going to sit in classes with people and professors who know who you are and know what your dreams are and help you achieve those dreams. And one of the things that is so unique about Washburn University is that we have a pathway. No matter what your educational goal or dream is, we have a place here for you. You belong at Washburn.
It's more than a move. It's a new job for her, a new baseball team for him. And for Badger, it's a new yard with more room to roam. It's more than a move, and we're more than a truck.
At Prairie Band Casino, everyone plays a little differently. These guys are playing their cards right. He's trying to hit it big. They prefer to double down. But sometimes, you just have to go all in. Discover more ways to play your way.
Do you have a passion for helping people? Family Service and Guidance Center is growing and now offers more competitive salaries for mental health positions, including therapists and case managers. You can help those who are struggling find hope and healing.
The Storm Track Weather Cam Network on 27 News. More cameras covering your community, giving you a live, exclusive look at weather as it rolls across northeast Kansas.
That is the view in Holton as that storm is starting to clear out.
Working for you to provide advance warning of changing conditions. The Storm Track Weather Cam Network, available live to you anytime, online, and on the 27 News mobile app. Sponsored by Prairie Band Casino and Resort.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Rebecca Chung. More laws are set to go into effect, and now we're breaking those down. So, Bob, what are some of the key ones that stand out to you this week?
Well, one law that was passed is called the Good Samaritan Law, and this actually is something that's very common on university campuses involving alcohol. In most university campuses, alcohol is illegal on campus, maybe off campus, of course, and so under these policies, if someone's in trouble with alcohol, then their roommate, can call the campus police, and they won't then cite the roommate who also may have been there drinking. So it's a way to get help for people. So in this case, this Good Samaritan law in Kansas involves fentanyl predominantly, and so it tells people go ahead and call the police so they can get help for someone if there's an overdose, and then when they come, they're not going to arrest everybody. You know, there's some caveats for if it's egregious, something egregious going on, but generally they want people to be able to help people that are overdosing. And so this was passed, and you know, a lot of people are very pleased about this as a step forward to help people who are having trouble with drugs and, of course, the fentanyl scourge.
Right, makes you immune from prosecution in those cases. And then what's the other one that you wanted to talk about?
Well, you know, there's an interesting bill that is for film and tax credits. Basically, it's to entice filmmakers of all sorts, you know, the big-time movie productions from independent filmmakers to come to Kansas and make their movies in Kansas. And they'll get various tax credits to do so. This is very popular in other states out south. You may see the Walking Dead series was in Georgia. New York has various tax credits, but other states are starting to get in on this. And it's just this idea, a two-pronged idea. One is that it'll bring economic development, you know, all the crew and everything will be staying in hotels and everything. And the other is that it'll make Kansas a more attractive place to be because people will see it, you know, on television or in movies. Now, if it's a zombie apocalypse, maybe not, but I'm joking. So this was an interesting addition. Again, that continuing effort to put in seed money or to help induce companies, in this case it's Hollywood.
Yeah, and I think one of the examples they used when they were talking about that bill is we have these huge blockbuster movies that are set in places that are actually in Kansas, but they're not filmed in Kansas. And so that is what this bill is kind of about, getting them over here to film these movies actually in Kansas, incentivizing that.
Right, imagine being, you know, in Maine and they're putting up corn stalks when they have to, because they're pretending to be in Kansas. Yes. So
and we also have the Office of the Child Advocate.
So yeah, the Office of the Child Advocate was passed, and this is a new office in which, of course, as it says, there would be somebody appointed by the governor, and that person would have to be approved by the Kansas Senate, whose obviously responsibility would be to advocate for children. And the reason for that is, in the past few years, there have been problems in the Department of Children and Families, DCF, but it could also be other things. Whenever the state is involved with children, to have an office that's keeping an eye to make sure that the children's interests are being looked at. And this is something the governor and many legislators have wanted for years. And so really it's a big win, bipartisan win for both political parties, for Kansas to get that office in there, and because they'll be keeping their eyes up on children. So I think a lot of people are happy about that.
All right, Bob, thank you so much. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Community creates possibility. Grace Mann was blessed to have Andover Middle School volunteer to help us by assembling dental care kits for our dental outreach program, which provides no-cost dental cleanings and screenings to more than 40,000 Kansans each year. And these kits are given out to encourage dental hygiene. Thanks to the combined efforts of Andover Middle School and Grace Mann, we were able to assemble 18,000 dental care kits in one morning. This is what is possible when we come together as a community.
Finally, the sunshine has returned. Soon the kids will be dancing in the sprinkler. And those bargain vinyl windows will warp in the summer sun. Hot deal you got there. At Renewal by Andersen, we replace 10-year-old vinyl windows every day. Unlike vinyl, our exclusive Fibrex material stands up to summer's heat. And it'll last a lifetime. Visit our website to claim this month's great offer and schedule your free consultation.
Hi, Clay Sherwood here with Frank and Dean, the CEOs of Cube, and they want me to tell you about Aquasil chlorine-free Aquasil pool care systems. Aquasil won't bleach out your swimwear, is easy on your swimming pool liner, is soft on your eyes, hair, and fur. Aquasil is preferred over salt, chlorine, and makes it easier to take care of your pool. Come into Swims and Sweeps for all your chemical needs. We want your summer to be fun, safe, clean with Aquasil Pool Care System. The difference is clear.
Air not blowing, pipes not flowing, bulbs not glowing? Blue Dot Heating, Plumbing, and Electrical can fix it all. Our experts are at your service 24/7. After 65 years, we are proud to be the only 24/7 emergency provider for HVAC, electrical, and plumbing in Topeka. We offer several 0% interest options or even extended terms with low monthly payments. We have plans to fit your needs and your budget. So call Blue Dot, one call for all your home comfort needs at 785-272-1633.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Rebecca Chen. Before we go, the state is pushing to buy the Curtis House here in Topeka. And so this house, Bob, a lot of history there. Let's take a look. Now, this photo that we have, it's from the National Park Service. It's the house of the first Native American Vice President, Charles Curtis. So big, piece of history there. Now the state making a bid, right?
Yeah, this is really interesting. I toured the house when I first moved to Topeka many years ago. A wonderful couple owned it, they bought it, they kept it up, they improved it, and it's right there near the state capitol. And this is an interesting thing because I think there's some legislators, some people in the state house that are worried it's now for sale because the couple passed away. Someone could buy it and, it's possible and kind of trash it, right? And it's this gorgeous historic home, and it's also Vice President Curtis's home. He was from Kansas, and he was also a person of color. He was a Native American, and so it's really important to the state of Kansas, and it's been there for many years. And this couple just maintained it so well. One legislator even said, when there's no trees, they can look across and they see this house. So $300,000 in the budget, and it's been the people that are selling it are asking for $700,000. So this, if approved, this would get the ball rolling for the Kansas Historical Society to possibly purchase it.
Amazing. Bob, Thank you so much. And that was your look inside Kansas politics. If you want to keep up to date on all things Kansas politics, then follow us on social media. Follow us on X at NKS Politics, and on Facebook, just search Inside Kansas Politics. We'll also post the full video on YouTube. Just search KSNT News. And check ksnt.com/inside-kansas-politics for past episodes. If you have a story you want Kansas state legislators to hear or topics you think we should cover, let us know. You can email us at ikp@ksnt.com. We'll see you right here, same time, same place. Have a good day.